There's a kind of silence that doesn't come from the world. It comes from within. The kind that settles over your thoughts like snowfall. Soft, slow, quieting everything it touches. For some people, that silence feels like home. It's not about loneliness. It's about breathing freely again, away from the noise of conversations that don't feel real, away from expectations that never end. You stop showing up, not because you stopped caring, but because being on all the time feels like holding your breath. At home, you can exhale. You can let your shoulders drop. You can exist without explanation. Psychologically, this moment of withdrawal isn't failure or weakness. It's nervous system regulation. The brain says, I need safety. And safety, for many of us, looks like stillness. When life feels overstimulating, the body triggers a withdrawal response, a built-in mechanism that mirrors the freeze reaction in stress cycles. Isolation, in this context, becomes a self-defense, not an escape.
Days begin to blur softly into one another. The walls of your room start to feel familiar, almost kind. There's a pattern to your peace. Wake slowly, move quietly, watch the world from a distance. Outside feels unpredictable. Inside feels known. This is what psychologists call the comfort zone, a space of reduced anxiety, a boundary between what's safe and what's unknown. But the comfort zone has layers. At first, it's healing. Later, it can become a cage, because the same walls that protect you also keep life out. You start to sense it, a faint loneliness hiding inside the quiet, like an echo that returns every night just to ask, are you okay here forever? The comfort zone is reinforced by predictability bias, our brain's tendency to prefer familiar situations, even when they no longer serve us. It's easier to stay still than to face the uncertainty of connection.
The fear of people doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like hesitation, like a hand hovering above the phone before choosing not to answer. You tell yourself, I'll call back later, but later never feels right. You imagine what they might think of you. Did I say something wrong last time? Do they notice how awkward I am? Do they even want me there? That's not introversion. That's social anxiety, the mental rehearsal of rejection that never even happened. The brain can't tell the difference between memory and imagination. When you picture embarrassment, it triggers the same stress response as if it were real. So you retreat, not out of arrogance, but out of protection. Because every social moment feels like standing under a spotlight with your thoughts exposed. Social anxiety involves hyperactivation of the amygdala, the brain's threat center. This triggers fight, flight, or freeze, even in normal social settings. Avoidance becomes the mind's way of staying safe.
At home, it's quiet, but inside, the noise grows. Overthinking fills the space where conversation used to be. You replay moments, rewrite words, analyze every pause in silence. This is the paradox of isolation. We escape the external noise only to be confronted by our internal one. Psychologically, this is the mind's attempt to create control. When life feels uncertain, the brain seeks certainty through thought, even if those thoughts become prisons. You start to confuse reflection with rumination. Reflection heals, rumination repeats. Overthinking activates the default mode network, the part of the brain tied to self-referential thought. Too much activation increases stress, leading to anxiety and even mild depression. That's why silence can start to feel heavy, because solitude without self-compassion turns into self-interrogation. Sometimes, isolation doesn't come from fear, it comes from exhaustion. You've given so much of yourself that you feel empty inside. You start canceling plans, not because you don't care, but because your body refuses to pretend. Burnout doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, "Stay home."
Emotional burnout is the brain's defense against chronic stress overload. When we constantly manage others' expectations or emotional needs, our systems shut down to reset. Withdrawal is how the body says, "I need to rebuild." But if rest turns into routine, you begin to drift, not resting anymore, just floating. That's the hidden danger. When recovery becomes a permanent address, healing turns into hiding. And the longer you stay away, the more distant normal starts to feel. You don't have to choose between silence and sound, between solitude and connection. You can carry your peace with you, like a candle that doesn't go out when the door opens. Home is not just a place, it's a state of mind, a quiet agreement between your body and your soul that says, "I am safe here." Maybe that's what isolation was trying to teach you all along, that before you can belong anywhere, you must belong to yourself. When you learn to sit in your own company and feel whole, the world stops being a threat and becomes an extension of that wholeness. So step outside, slowly. Take your stillness with you. Listen to the hum of life again. You don't need to disappear to find peace. You can live it, one mindful breath at a time.